Libido is like our sex drive, right? It's what as males, if I were to just talk about hormones really quickly here, we all have hormones. And so our sex hormones are the same between males and females. So you, Tay, you have estrogens, progesterones, testosterone. Me as a female, I have estrogens, progesterones, testosterone. The difference between species is that you have different degrees of them. So your dominant hormone as a male is testosterone. That's your driving hormone. And we know that testosterone drives sex. It drives your desire for sex. It just drives everything sexual, right? In females, it is our least active hormone. Our estrogens are the most active, supported by our progesterone next, and we have testosterone. And so what happens is that even with men, as those hormones go up and down, your sex drive is affected and your desire is affected. And so the same thing happens with females. So when you have a low libido, it means that you have a low desire for sex. And that can be influenced by our hormones, where we are in life. We find that as you go through pregnancy, it changes dramatically. You go through stressful periods of time, it goes down, up and down very dramatically. As you go through menopause just causes a huge hit on your libido. So these transitions really play a part with that. And so, can you spice things up? You absolutely can. And I'm excited because there are actually new changes on the Western medicine side, where there are medications just like Viagra is out there. I don't know if I feel like a lot of females are not aware that there are medications on the market to help you on your libido that you can take just like a male will come and get a prescription. And so that's exciting in one front. But yes, there are ways that holistically you can actually work on your diet and your body to physically help to do that. And so the number one thing that I usually say is to get rid of your stress, because as females we wear so many different hats, right? We want to focus on a thousand things. We are parents, we are um, professionals, we are family members, we're friends, we are carrying so many different burdens, we are trying to juggle a thousand hats at the same time.
Mhm.
And as females, it's very difficult for us to shut one down and tap into our sexual needs. Okay. And so we go to the bedroom and we bring all of those hats with us. Very different from a male who can switch gears. It doesn't matter how stressful they are, they can jump into and tap into their sexuality very quickly. Females, we don't have that easy trigger. We need to actually lift, remove, and get rid of that stress for us to actually pay attention to our bodies and our sexual needs. And so, my number one recommendation is to do things to try to help us to decrease that stress. And so, or how we handle stress when it comes, because we all have stress and we can't go around it. So, my number one thing is if we don't change what we bring to the bedroom, then we won't be able to change how we are in the bedroom. And so, leave those at the door and go into that bedroom ready to focus 100% on our sexual needs and sexual desires and sexual fulfillment. Now, outside of the bedroom, there are things that we can do as well. And they're really surrounded by keeping our bodies as healthy as we can. And so, with that, if our bodies are filled, if we're feeding our bodies with a lot of processed foods, trying to, we're not keeping a very healthy diet overall, then we could be hurting our libidos overall. And so you want to eat clean. You want to incorporate fiber. You want to make sure that your meals are as colorful as possible, because with that, you're getting all the micronutrients and things that are important to make your testosterone. So, for instance, when we think of taking like vitamins, when we think of eating our greens, there are different micronutrients, which are vitamins and minerals that you get from those things that we're eating. And through that, we will fuel our bodies with the things that it needs to make the hormones that will keep our libido high. So, for instance, orange things are marvelous. So, orange things like sweet potatoes, oranges, peppers, like bell peppers that are yellow or orange, they actually are giving us our bodies a lot of what we need to make our testosterone and to make our hormones so we can keep our libido up. And so those are things to do there. If we're talking about physically not having like vaginal dryness, right? Because as females, if it's dry down there, sex is not going to feel good. It is not going to feel right. And so there are ways that we can enhance that. Vitamin E is a really big one that helps to keep it moisturized there, and so that everything is nice and slippery, and that you're ready. So we want to incorporate that in your diet. It is working on not having too much like white carbs. White carbs tend to impact our system indirectly in that it spikes our insulin. When our insulin is spiked, it increases the likelihood that we can have insulin resistance and we can have problems like diabetes, and that leads to lowering our libido over time. And so there's so many different ways that we can tackle libido, but diet, mentality, and movement, like exercise, I would say it is like the top three things that we can do.
Okay, cool. I appreciate that. I know we got a little backtrack when we first started off. I was gonna ask you if you have time for maybe like two more questions.
Yeah. Go right ahead.
Okay, I got one more. Let me see, health related. So I guess I can ask you about HPV. If
Yeah.
you could just kind of go into what that is and how it
Yeah.
may not affect a man and a woman differently.
Yeah, very different. So HPV is the human papillomavirus. It is the top STD that exists. And so it is sexually transmitted. Males are the reservoir. They carry it. I mean, technically everyone does because a female can pass it on to a male as well. But males are the number one reservoir of HPV. And so it's a virus that is without a physical cure, like a cure that we can say in medicine, we can give you this and we'll get rid of it. There's no such thing. But we do know that a majority of people with HPV will clear it out of their system on their own within a few years of being exposed to it. So it is sexually transmitted. There's no standard testing that exists when it comes to getting an STD panel or STD testing. So if a male goes to the doctor and says, "Hey, I want to test to see, what I have as for STDs," it's not incorporated. There's no testing for them. And so the standard STD panel will be gonorrhea, chlamydia, hepatitis, HIV, and syphilis. So if you go in and say, "I want STD testing," that's it. Doesn't even include herpes and other things that is also very common. It does not incorporate that. And so with males, there's no real way for you to go and to know what or if you have HPV. Now there are over 200 different strains of HPV. So it's a lot that is out there. And each male can or each person can have a different combination of exposures. So if you've had multiple people that you've had unprotected sexual activity with, you can have you can have 5 HPV types in your system. You can have 20. You can have 50. You can have 1, depending on what your history is. And so each of those different strains can be linked with either causing nothing in your system. So as a female, you may not have any symptoms whatsoever, or you may get genital warts. You may have cancers of all types. So you can have cervical cancer, vaginal cancer, vulva, anal, mouth, tongue, throat, lip cancer from HPV. So anywhere where you can have contact with genitals, so like oral sex, you can get HPV in that area. And so for females, the way that we know that we have HPV is with a pap test. And so pap testing are pap smears. They start at the age of 21. And so it's a part of what is considered to be your annual exam when you go to see your OBGYN. Before we used to test as early as you were ever sexually active, but now we don't start testing until 21. There is a vaccine available that children can get as early as 9 years old, and that's males and females. And so it will protect both from getting the virus altogether and decreasing the likelihood of getting high risk versions of HPV. So it doesn't cover all 200 strains, it only covers certain high risk types. And so it's important to understand that, because the high risk types are the ones that can cause cancer, which are the ones that you really want to get protection from. So you can still be HPV positive, but not necessarily from the high risk types. And so that's HPV in a nutshell. There's no cure for it. The best thing to do is to try to prevent yourself from being exposed to more strains of it, but really keeping up as a female with your OBGYN, and as a male, doing the same, so males have a huge part with this as well. They need to protect themselves. So it means using condoms. It means, decreasing your exposures. It means, being caring about yourself, but your future partners or your current partners as well.